this is how to do SHIF Relief Recovery in November payroll. You had paid employees with SHIF Relief, then after KRA confirmed there was no SHIF Relief, you recomputed your payroll. So now your employees owe you that figure that you had paid them that you didn't end up paying in taxation. Okay, so there's 3 steps basically. You need a pay type to import into November with. Yeah, we'll use VolDed recovery. I'll show you how to do that. We need to get the figure that we are recovering, and then we need to do the importation. So let's deal with the pay type first. So open pay types, go to voluntary deductions. I would use this recovery if you have not already used it. Otherwise you can, and especially if you're not using it in the current month, you can just set it as variable. If yours is already set as variable, you had used it before, you can reuse it again, unless you're using it for some recoveries. If you are using it, you can activate a custom pay type. You can call this, let's just be specific, SHIF Recovery, SHIF Recovery with no space. You could do that, okay, and then save. It saves, and then you would set it as variable like that. Then you could use that instead. Okay, but in our case, if you haven't used, I suggest you use this recovery, and then we'll put a note to explain what it is. The name of the pay type doesn't need to be specific. We can always put details in notes. Okay, so now we want to get the figure. So if we go to October, let's click display complete, and let's filter by SHIF Relief to check if there is SHIF Relief. Okay, so you will probably not have SHIF Relief. I had already redone it. Oh, I hadn't processed in this particular one, so let's just process so that we see what yours looks like. When you select SHIF Relief as a filter, you should get 0 like this, nothing. I had some because I had not recomputed in this sample. Okay, so I've selected SHIF Relief. I should not have anything. So the first thing I want you to do is to just note this figure on the summary, fixed and variable. Note your net pay figure, 1,380,809. All right, if you need to write it down somewhere, write it down somewhere, because you need to make sure that after we do our recalculations and come back, that your October payroll reestablishes the way it was originally, 1,380,809. So now I want to go and activate SHIF. So I go to rates, I go to October. Remember we had put it at 0, so I want to put it back to 0.15 because I want to get the figures. So I put it October 0.15 SHIF Relief. I'm in October, I process. Remember I filtered for SHIF Relief. I should see my SHIF Relief figures. Okay, so now what I want to do, I can even remove the filters. What I want to do is to get those figures. So the easiest way to do it is this. Come to spreadsheet views, come to selected pay type lists, tick select all so that everybody is ticked, and then untick. The reason you do that is in case there was something ticked that you're not interested in. That's why we do that step. So now I want you to scroll down to the relief figures. I want SHIF Relief, tick it, and I want net pay. Let's go and get net pay. Net pay is at the bottom. This one. I want net pay, and then click in another line to save that selection. So now I've selected 2 things, net pay and SHIF Relief. If I click view, you'll see that SHIF Relief is showing and net pay is showing. So let's export this. You click export, select this, XLSX, export. Let's dump it here. Let's rename this SHIF Relief October. Okay, so I've saved it. Now I can delete these unnecessary columns. Delete. Shrink this. I don't even need these. Delete. Okay, so now I have SHIF Relief and I have my net pay, my October net pay, and then I'm going to, this is with SHIF Relief. Okay, and then this is our SHIF Relief. You'll see the importance of this shortly. Then I go back to rates, back to October. So I want to correct it back to what it was. So set SHIF Relief back to 0, close, come back to make sure I'm in October, go to processing, process, make sure after you finish processing you filter and make sure there is no SHIF Relief. Click off my filters. I don't need this displayed anymore. Then I come back here, selected pay type lists, leave the 2 because now there is no SHIF Relief, nothing will be picked. You can confirm by viewing, all you have is your net pay. Then I want to export that. Let's leave it. Let's leave it like that because all I want is the figure. Just leave it with its original name. Okay, so let's we can just delete these unnecessary columns again. So I have, just make sure the order of your names automatically it should be the same. Just confirm because I want to get these net pay figures without SHIF Relief. So I copy and I go back here and I paste here, okay, and I want to say I've copied that heading. This is without SHIF Relief. Now the value of this is, now I can confirm by subtracting these two, equals that minus that, copy. Now what do you notice? Let's say here difference, which is also my recovery. You'll notice that for the smaller salaries, even though there was a SHIF Relief, there is nothing to be recovered because this was swallowed up because the tax was lower than the relief figures. So that relief was effectively not used in that month. So he had more relief than he had tax, and you can't pay negative tax. So that's the reason why I want to get the net pay if you have low salaries. If you have bigger salaries only, you can see these guys are the same. The difference of 50 cents here is because remember our net pay is always rounded off. Okay, so there we are. So the reason I had put this figure is to show you there is a threshold where you pass, maybe around 25k. Anybody above 25k, I think, will get the full SHIF Relief, be as what you're recovering from. But anything below, remember these were smaller figures, there is nothing to be recovered. Okay, so we now have our figures that we want to recover. So let's go back. Oh, we want to confirm one thing while we're in October. Go back here, select this, confirm that your net pay total has gone back to what it was originally. But remember we switched on SHIF Relief, then we switched it off. So the reason you're checking this total is to make sure that the payroll went back normal. This figure will always be the same if you process and you haven't changed anything in the payroll. Okay, so now we go to November. Remember, you had already processed November with no SHIF Relief, right? Just go, you are now in November. Of course, your SHIF Relief is still at 0. And if you want, you can just confirm. Let's come here and say complete filter, SHIF Relief. There's nothing. So I remove my filters. I can remove that. So what I want now is to post the recovery. So we're going to use the import tool. So again, while you're on Payslips, you come to Input Shortcut and Tools, Import from Excel. Let's get the template by clicking on this Export to Excel. right? Just leave it the way it is. Click export to Excel, XLSX, put it in a folder. Let's just leave the name there the way it is. I know where mine is going. Make sure you know where yours is going. It will open. Okay, so now it's open. So we just want to, while it's open, just get the names and the figures. So I want this. I want these names. Control V, Control C, Control V, and then I want these figures. I don't want, unless the two are exactly the same, I want really these figures. Control C. Now in this case, I want to say right click this because it's a formula. I hope you understand that. If I just copied, it would give me nothing. Then amounts, I want to put zeros. Okay, and then I want to put a note so that it explains what that figure is. So I can say here October SHIF Relief. I don't need to say recovery because we're using the recovery pay type, so it already has the word recovery in it. Okay, so you just say October SHIF Relief. So I have my names, I have amount zeros, I have my SHIF figures, and I have October SHIF Relief. Right, so I save that, and I've remembered the name of that file. Mine is this. So if you renamed yours, you have to remember what it is. So we go back again. Same again. Remember we are here. Still, it's open. Import from Excel. So it's there. So in this case, I want to get that path. This is my file. Once I have the path, I say import from Excel. It brings my figures. Remember, it looks exactly like this. Always remember to match names. It is not enough for this. You have to match the names to make sure that the system knows who these people are. Okay? Just in case somebody's name differs from what is in the system. So make sure everybody gets matched properly like that. So that's done. Now we want to use the pay type that we used. So in our case, I want to use recovery. If you had to create a new one, you'll use the one you created. In my case, I want to just use the old recovery. So I select recovery, and then I say here, add to Payslips. I go and add to Payslips. It will show me what has been added, like this. So if I come to filters, you'll see that it's selected. When you do this import, it automatically does a filtering by that figure. So we have those figures. So let's put off the filters. Now, some people don't know that this thing exists here. You can delete zeros, right? If you click this, it gets rid of all the zeros in the system. So I click delete zeros. It gets rid of all the zeros that are unnecessary. You don't need any zeros in the payslips. Okay, so now we have SHIF Relief, but remember we've not yet updated the payslip for the recovery. So you just say process, so that now the net pay for the current month will be adjusted. Let's just look at some payslips. So like here now we have, so you can see there is no SHIF Relief, but after this net of government deductions, you have the voluntary deduction of the recovery of October SHIF Relief, which reduces the person's net pay. So 72 minus 400 and something, 71, 668. So that's the process. And once you do this, you will have recovered and you can continue with your payroll. Remember to make backups. Just make a backup. It's very simple. Click. That's it. Takes you 2 seconds. Will save you 100 hours. All right, that's it.